Tecker 911, episode 53, speeding up startup. I'm Jordan Berman.
I'm Dame.
And today we're here to talk to you about speeding up your computer start time. So, as you install programs, they like to install unnecessary files that begin starting when you boot up your computer. And we want to show you how to get rid of those. There's multiple types. There's unnecessary Windows processes. There's the kind that third-party programs put in.
Alright, so some common examples of programs that might start when your computer starts and slow it down is if you have Adobe Reader, there's an updater for that starts. Install Shield, which is a company that makes installers for programs. They have an updater that runs and checks for updates for all of their programs. There's a Google Updater, runs if you have iTunes or QuickTime. They start up and check for updates when your computer starts. And so now we're going to show you some main ways to stop those from starting when your computer starts and make startup faster. So one way to stop programs from starting when your computer does is in the system tray you can right click them, go to preferences or options, and there should be a box you can uncheck that says start with my computer or run a startup.
Some of them actually run processes which are slightly more difficult to eliminate. What you have to do to eliminate those is you go start and go to run, and you type in msconfig msconfig and click OK.
You have to be administrator to run that.
And so you'll see multiple tabs, and you click startup. And so once you bring up the screen, you can expand the command section to help give you an idea of what they function for and what programs are actually being ran. And if you don't know what the name is, like some things like NWiz, which doesn't give you much information but install, you can always pop it into Google and it should give you a name as to what it is.
Alright, then you can go through the list as well and see some ideas of where they are in your system. So you have C program files, common, Roxio, so you know this is Roxio CD. It says iTunes Helper, QTT Task. You see that's in the QuickTime folder. And so Plaza's uncheck iTunes and QuickTime because they're really a waste of starting. They make your computer slower. You can also see keyboard. That's the driver for our keyboard. We don't want to uncheck that or the keyboard won't work. And that's pretty undescriptive. But when you look at it, you see it's Adobe Reader. And you can probably disable that.
So once you look through it, you can find all programs that are safe to unclick, such as Adobe Reader, because that's not necessary to run. But again, if you're not sure, make sure you Google, because you can potentially harm your system by unclicking the wrong things that you're not sure on. So once you're done, you can click OK, and it will take effect after your next reboot.
So next time you start your computer, it'll pop up a little box saying System Configuration Utility has been used. You have to check a little checkbox so it will not tell you that every time you start your computer.
So another way to eliminate some unneeded services is instead of going to the service screen in msconfig, you go run and you type in services.msc and click OK. And it brings up a screen of all the services that run throughout your computer. and there's probably like 100 or so, many of which are not needed.
Yeah, programs will install services in here, such as there's Google Updater, McAfee, there's iTunes and QuickTime stuff. I think AIM, if you have that, will start up when your computer does in here. If iPod service. Indexing service keeps track of the files in your computer so you can search. You probably don't want to disable that. But iPod service,
So since we're not running an iPod on this computer, it's safe to disable the iPod service. So you right-click iPod service, and then left-click Properties. And it's not responding.
I think you can double-click it, but whatever.
There you go. And a screen will pop up, and you'll have the option that says Startup Type, and you click the down arrow and choose Disabled, since we won't be needing it, and then click OK. You have to be careful though, because there are certain ones that are necessary to run, but there's also things like McAfee, which are like stuff you install, but it is necessary to have in this computer because it helps protect us against viruses and spyware. And so make sure you know what you're disabling before you disable it. Some things that you don't know what they are can be found at blackviper.com. And so you go to blackviper.com and go down to Popular Content and XP Service Pack 3. And I'll give you like an introduction of all the things running, and then the list of what you can disable. And so you can go through there and see what's safe to disable. It's listed by it's listed in columns by what's needed and what's not. And so there's things like Smart Card Reader, which on this desktop we wouldn't need because it's not a smart. It lacks the Smart Card Reader. It's listed alphabetically, so it's pretty easy to find anything you need. You could potentially be looking for. So we go through here, and we go to the Smart Card Reader, and again we click Disabled, click OK, and you're done. And so that's how you disable services.
So a lot of people, when they get a computer, they'll want to run through Windows and see what they can disable from starting up to make their startup faster. The blackviper.com website does not include things that you install like iTunes, QuickTime, AIM, or any other third-party programs, just what's installed with Windows XP.
But for those programs that are installed with Windows XP, you can go to blackviper.com and find what can be disabled.
So when you're Googling around for your processes, you might come across websites to try to sell you software that it might be a security risk, or it's just plain ripoff, because you can do the same stuff using the built-in msconfig and services functions built into Windows. So we've shown you 3 ways to disable things from starting when your computer does and speed up your startup. You have tray icons, msconfig, and services. So when you get a new computer, especially from HP and Dell, it'll have a lot of junk loaded onto it, usually to increase their revenue. Like they will set their home page, they'll install programs that you really don't want on there.
Like Norton trials, which are very hard to eliminate.
And if you don't want a lot of that junk, you can go to pcdecrapifier.com and download this free program which will eliminate that.
So make sure you know what you're disabling before you do. Like Google your names. And the real best way to get things off the tray and boot faster is to uninstall programs. I'm Jordan Berman.
I'm Ray Dame.
And disable with care.
To watch this episode again or to watch any of our prior episodes, you can visit our website 911.tecker.net, Tecker. And on the website we have our prior episodes, as well as you can view them directly on the website, or you can download them in WMV for Windows, iPod or QuickTime format for your iPod, or if you have iTunes installed, an MP3 audio-only version of the show, and a WMV HD version of the show, which you can download via BitTorrent that looks really, really clear and in pristine HD quality. And instructions for downloading via BitTorrent are also on the site. On the right-hand side, we have more information about us and about each of the members of the show. as well as quick links to all of our prior episodes and links to the RSS feeds for each of the formats that we release the show in, and links to subscribe to the show in iTunes if you have an iPod, an Apple TV, an iPhone, any Apple device. You can click on that link in either video or audio format. You can also in iTunes search for Tecker, T-E-C-K-E-R, in the iTunes store, and then you can find our podcast that you can subscribe to free. Also, if you do not have an iPod, if you have like a generic MP3 player, then you can use you can still listen to our show if on our website you subscribe to this MP3 audio version in a feed catcher, in a podcatcher like Juice. You can search for Juice on Google, download that program, and then it'll load the shows automatically onto your generic MP3 playing device. If you have any questions about the show or about technology, you can send us an email at 911@tecker.net, or you can leave us a voicemail at 610-572-2847. Thank you so much for watching Tecker 911.